Hello, everyone, and welcome to a new episode from our podcast Land Talks, brought to you by the G20 Global Land Initiative. Today we have Abdulhadi Achakzai. Welcome, Abdulhadi, to our podcast.
Thank you very much. Really pleasure being here with you.
Thank you. Would you please give us an introduction about yourself?
Yeah, my name is Abdulhadi Achakzai. I am a climate change activist and advocate, and I also lead a climate change focused NGO in Afghanistan. The name of the NGO is Environmental Protection Trainings and Development Organization. Our NGO is focusing on climate change adaptation and mitigation, including land restoration management, I would say soil management, agriculture development, and we have been working in Afghanistan since many years.
That's so impressive. Thank you so much. So let's talk a little bit about conflict and land degradation. As a climate change advocate and researcher with extensive experience in program management, how do you see the interplay between land degradation and conflict? And can you please share insights into how these dynamics have played out in Afghanistan?
Yeah, this is a very important question. Actually, Afghanistan is among the top 10 countries most vulnerable to the climate change. And the hazards and impacts of climate change mostly are coming from one is conflict, since there was fighting and several bombs were, I would say, experienced in Afghanistan. And at the same time, Afghanistan is also among those countries which is least developed and which has least, I would say, disadvantaged economy resources as well as other technology related resources. In this case, Afghanistan soil, Afghanistan land is severely impacted and damaged even by conflict, because when there is fighting for decades, of course this conflict will come a serious matter. At the same time, while there is economic problem, while there is less resources regarding technology resources as well as financial resources, this also inherit the situation to be very complicated. So it means in general, Afghanistan is experiencing the worst situation at the current time, even now, because in the current situation, Afghanistan is not benefiting from the global commitments because of the sanction and the political issues. That's one side, and the international donors and organizations and the current situation. However, they are interested in working in Afghanistan to solve the problem, but that is not enough in Afghanistan. They need more work, and lots of things are needed to manage and to solve problems.
Okay, thank you. Let's talk a little bit about Afghanistan's climate challenges. Based on your work with organizations and your role as a UN climate change observer delegate, what aspects of Afghanistan's climate crisis are unique, and what lessons can they offer to the global community?
Yeah, let me divide this question into three parts. The first part is the Afghanistan climate crisis that our communities currently experiencing. I conducted a conference in Afghanistan, and more than hundreds of international organizations participated. We had a very long discussions what to be prioritized and what are the key challenges that Afghan communities are facing now. So what are the major issues, key issues that were pointed out by the international stakeholders working in Afghanistan? At the same time, I had a research and I visited 29 out of 34 provinces during the past year. During these visits, I found out how our communities are experiencing the worst situation and how they are severely impacted by climate change, and what to be addressed in national and international level. Our research while I was visiting the provinces, it was actually a research project funded by different international donors. And the second issue is, most importantly, the access to global commitments. Like Afghanistan in the current situation doesn't have access to global commitments. So this is another issue that is a serious matter for Afghanistan while they are not accessing these places, these commitments. And the third issue is that while the donors are in Afghanistan, but during this 3 years, since the government has changed in Afghanistan, there were like political changes. Most of the donors, they are mostly focusing on emergency humanitarian issues. They are not mostly focusing on climate change issues. For example, if there is a big donor, while they are providing financial support to the impacted countries, see, they are only providing the current situation. They are providing support for Afghan people in humanitarian aids,
Yes.
not in development like climate change projects. So the first issue, as I mentioned before, during my visits, there was problems. I found out that Afghanistan is one of the most vulnerable countries to the climate change because of no access to resources.
Yes.
This is one issue. And the second issue, and access to the global commitments. And the third issue is, look, international donors, they are mostly focusing on humanitarian aids
Yes.
instead of development like climate change. So these three things are issues that need to be considered. So in this case, Afghanistan is impacted and suffering a lot.
Thank you so much, Abdulhadi. That was very well explained. Let's talk a little bit about land degradation and climate projects. With over 14 years of managing climate-related projects, how does land degradation impact the success of broader climate initiatives in Afghanistan and beyond?
Yeah, you see, while there is climate change impacts, of course, in Afghanistan, we actually prioritized, we divided the impacts of climate change into different sectors. The first sector, that is extreme drought in Afghanistan. While we talk about climate change impacts, the first impact that we experience in Afghanistan is extreme droughts. While there is extreme droughts, while the greenery will come down,
Yeah.
of course, the tree will dry. Of course, the green deserts will change to, I would say, to deserts like exposed to the sun. So in this case, the deserts, the land management, and I would say the greenery in Afghanistan is losing, and there are millions of people displaced internally and migrated externally from Afghanistan. And there are several reports even published by the UN that why they are displaced, because they do not have drinking water. In most of the Afghanistan areas, rural communities, before, even 2 years ago, national and international stakeholders, they were working to find water for the people agriculture, because based on the UN reports, about 80% of the Afghan population, they have direct and indirect access, or their economy rely on agriculture incomes, like they are
Yes.
cultivating crops and so on. 2 years ago, the national stakeholders, they were trying to find water for the agriculture of those people, but now the situation suddenly changed. It's amazing. Within these 2 years, now the same stakeholders, they are trying to find drinking water for those communities. And most of the communities, they are displaced not because of unavailability of water for their agriculture, but unavailability of water for their drinking. I had a visit from different provinces in Afghanistan. And the people, they were drinking very unclean, unsafe water. That was terrible, I would say.
Yes.
And UNICEF recently published publication report. They mentioned in Afghanistan, 8 people out of 10, they drink unsafe water. It means in 10 people, only 2 people, they drink safe water. UNICEF
indeed.
reported this. So in this case, while there is extreme drought, of course, the green areas will be changed to deserts. The villages will be changed to deserts. So in this case, land management and land degradation will happen.
Yes.
And there are several natural disasters happening in Afghanistan. You may hear that last 2 years, there were earthquake that hit to different places in Afghanistan and destroyed villages.
Yes.
And the land degradation happened, of course. And the same time, there was like a flash floods, unseasonable rainfall in Afghanistan. And the flash floods damaged lots of crops, lots of agricultural land. So the land degradation is there. So these are major issues.
It is really major, and we are happy that you have brought everything on the table today. So from the tens of projects you have led, what are some success stories from Afghanistan that could serve as replicable models for other nations facing similar environmental challenges?
The best example is to find alternative crops, trees, plant those trees which doesn't require more water, one issue, because Afghanistan is one of the drought hit country, and we are planting trees
Yes.
which doesn't require more water, one issue, to reduce land degradation, as well as it prevents carbon, and it gives a kind of beauty to the deserts, and so this is one issue. And the second issue, seasonal rainfall, and the flood is coming,
Yes.
and it destroys village hits. In this case, we are making a small dams. These check dams are mostly implemented in those areas which are mostly in risky areas. We
Yes.
identify risky areas, and then we construct these check dams. This also a kind of reservation that reserve the water, as well as it reduces the flood to, something like this. So this also can help. And another issue, big issue, while they are planting the trees, it's important to consider that they need to plant the trees that are adaptable to the land, to the soil, as well as to the climate.
Yes.
This is also important. So there are several other issues. While land degradation, there are lots of deserts. We need to plant the trees. We need to make greeneries. We need to focus how we can establish a kind of green forests. In Afghanistan, we call it building green borders.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So green building or establishment of green borders, it also reduces land degradation. So these are some examples, very few examples
that's
I've brought
great.
here.
That's great to know. My final question for you, Abdulhadi, is what is one consistent outcome you have observed when restoring land in the types of ecosystems and landscapes you work in?
Yeah. The first thing is the best outcome specifically is in Afghanistan, we identified those locations which we will plant trees every year. We cover different provinces and different areas in Afghanistan. Every year we start planting trees from hundreds to, I would say, to millions of trees.
Wow.
See, so planting trees, as I mentioned before, we
Yes.
plant those trees which are adaptable to the soil, climate, and land. At the same time, we also plant those trees which are one is adaptable, which require less water.
Yeah.
And another success, we are now planting fruit trees, I would say. It will reduce carbon, and it will produce fruits, and the fruits will have international market, and then it will be sold.
Thank you so much, Abdulhadi. We were over the moon to have you today with us. Please allow me to thank Abdulhadi Achakzai for being with us today. And for our audience, please stay tuned for more episodes from Land Talks podcast. Thank you very much and have a good day.